gorgeous creatures, and welcome back to another episode of On the Couch with Crazy Chaz. Yes, this is Crazy Chaz, the one, the only, the fabulous, as I'm known to my friends, colleagues, and clients. If you didn't know, I am actually a stationery lecturer and has been teaching in design and the wedding industry for probably the last 8 to 9 years. And I absolutely love giving inspiration to students and new entrepreneurs alike. So I want to start a series of DIY projects, wedding projects for you at home. So today's episode is actually going to be broken into 2 parts. One being a digital part, explaining the whole Corel and designing aspect of the invitation, and 2, the actual making of the invitation. And this is the invitation in question. So we're going to learn how to put it all together, some tips and tricks about all your DIY needs. So part 1 is designing from scratch, and now my program of choice is of course CorelDraw. So let's get on to the designing.
All right, and welcome. We're going to be doing the Corel section or the design section for our DIY invitation today. Basically, I'm in Corel 18. This is my preferred software. It is PC based, but I find it a very, very powerful program. All right, on to the design. So we have 3 major elements to design for this invitation. 1 being the monogram, 2 being the main page with the details of who's getting married, and a secondary page of information with venue, dress code, RSVP, and registry. So what we're going to do is we're just going to create another page. We go down here, we click plus. Now we go back to our page 1, and we want to basically duplicate what we have here. So I just want to have it on the side of the design so that we can use it as a reference going forward. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a Control C, go to our second page, Control V. All right. Now we know the size of our invitation needs to be a rough square of 140 by 135. So what we're going to do is we go to the rectangular tool. We're going to make any shape sort of rectangular box, and I'll show you how to get it to the exact sizes that we need. Always remember in Corel you need to go back to the pointer or pick tool to make your selection. Now we know that this has to be 140 wide by 135 tall. Okay, so there we go. And we've got our first element, which is the box. All right. Then what we're going to do is want to place the monogram in the sort of the center, because that's the main focus, and then work through all the different elements. So what we're going to do, we're going to have another tutorial about how to design monograms, but for today's exercise, we're just going to use what we've got. So we're going to we've got our monogram here, and now we want to, as you see here, place it in the center, but near the top of our square. So what we're going to do when we are centering, always the item we want to center to whatever item needs to be selected first. Then we click Shift and we click the square that we want to center to. Then we go to the Align and Distribute. Now, if you don't have a flyout like myself, you can go to Objects, and you can go down to Align and Transform, and then you would get that flyout. All right, so what we want to do is we want to center it. So we use this little icon to center our item. then what we're going to do, control is a feature, or the control button is a feature to keep everything in perfect alignment. So if we click our monogram, and as we drag down, we keep the control button down, we can keep it exactly in the middle, and we can place it where we want to be. All right. Now, just to make things easier, I have opened or created a document with all the wording. So what we're going to do, so that we can work on fonts and whatnot, I'm just going to copy this off my notepad, and I'm going to click the A button or the text tool and control paste. So you can see here that we've got the same wording, but not necessarily with the same fonts or the same layout, but the gist of what needs to be there. Now we know we want to put this roughly in the middle. So we do that. We repeat the same step. We click our words, control or shift hold the box. We go to our line and distribute and put center. Okay, now we can see that this is far too big. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to hold the shift button down, click the top right corner, and we drag it in to a size that feels right. But now this alignment is not necessarily what we want to achieve. We want a center alignment. So we pop up here, as long as we've got our black squares around it to show that we have selected it, we can actually now go in and center that writing. My advice is always to save your work. Even though Corel has a backup or a save backup every sort of 5-10 minutes, my advice is always to save, to make sure that you don't lose any of your work. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in a little bit, and we're going to look and work on some fonts. All right, so in our stationery and tips about stationery, we talk about family fonts. Now, I am a great lover of all caps, and one of my favorite all caps classic sort of looking font is one we call Tinsel. So let's go down and find it, and you'll see it automatically goes. I just find that it just looks so much better. Now, one thing we can do here, we can either do again that shift and drag in, brings in equally, or we can change up here the font. Normally about a 12 is comfortable, and it gives us nice spacing, because you just also don't want to go too big, because you also want to create this nice empty space around it, so it doesn't feel like the words are running off the page. Now, what we want to do is we want to make sure that our groom's names and our bride's names are a little bit more sort of stands out, and we can use a cursive font for that. So here you can see we've changed the font, and we can change that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to click our wording again. All right, and we're just going to highlight the groom's name for starters. Then we're going to go through all our different fonts and see what works best for our font. So let's play with that one. Now, 12 in cursive fonts, the sizing is very much smaller. So we probably want to take that up to about a 36. Now, do we like this? Yes, no. You can see here, I think it's just a little bit too playful modern for this particular font that we're using. So let's go with something that we used before, which is the stylish calligraphy font, which you can see here. It's probably one of the downloaded fonts. I'm quite happy with that and the spacing. All right, so we're going to apply that. What's nice about Corel, it keeps all your fonts that you've used, so we know it's that one. And then also remember, we took this up to a 36. All right, now we can see 36 worked for Roderick, but it doesn't really work for the Tracy name, and I think we need to take it down a bit. So here we can start playing with fonts. Let's take it down to 30. That seems comfortable, but what we do to one, we need to do to the other. All right, I think so far we're happy with this layout. It relatively looks the same as the side. So far, so good. All right, now we want to work on this. It's actually quite nice. You have two choices here, okay? So I just want to space this out because our memoir is at the bottom. You can put the date in normally, but what's nice about designing it like so is that the important features, it's at 1500 hours on the 6th of August, becomes a little bit more predominant and is easy to read on a quick glance over. Okay, so now we're going to work on this design element. We're going to start with our date, which is the 6th. Okay, now what I tend to do for this is I tend to work off the page so that we don't interfere with our writing on the side. So our date is the 6th. Now we can use one of two things, either the stencil, because we are remembering we only ever use two fonts, one curly font and one print font. So we've got a 6. And I think the 6 here looks better than the stylish 6 for what we want to achieve. It gives that sense of elegance. So there's our 6. All right. Now, the next part, we've got our 6. Now, the next part we want to look at is these lines. All right. Now, how do we create those lines? It's very simple. So there's one of two ways. If you want to put rounded edges onto your lines, what you can do is you use your rectangular tool and you draw a rectangle, then go to the node tool, and if you just pull on the edges, you can see there we get nice rounded edges. If you don't necessarily want the rounded edges, and once we take that down, we can make it as long or as short, but rounded edges also look quite nice as a finishing touch. Or you can take the freehand tool, and what you do is you click at one point, control. Now, can you see this can go anyway? But as soon as I use the control button, it is a controlled line. So now we can make sure that we can get a perfectly straight line. And then we can adjust the size to whatever we'd like. And if I zoom in here, you can see the difference. This has got a round and this has got a straight. And depending on what you want to achieve or what's the look and feel that you want to look at, depends. So for this exercise, I want to go with the rounded one. All right. Now, I also want to make it a little bit thinner. So we go to the same idea. I think let's make it a 50 mil wide and we want a 1 mil thick. So it makes it a nice sort of shape. All right. Now, remember we had duplicates of this. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the top line. You're going to go Control C, Control V. And if we Control bring down, you can actually see we've got a second group. All right. Then what we're going to do is bring them together, or highlight and bring them together. And we're going to hit Control Group. So now these, wherever I pick them up, they work as a group. All right. Now we want to put it in line with our 6. All right. So I think we want to take this a little bit shorter. Let's take this down to maybe 35 mils. Perfect. All right. But now we want it in the center of our 6. So we go back to the same thing again with our alignment. We click our first one, we print Shift, we click our 6, and we use our alignment tool to go there. Then we use our control and drag so that it comes into the 6. Now, we need this element on both sides. So we're going to Control C, Control V. All right, and then we're going to drag this across so that we have equal on both sides. Okay, so that's looking really, really great. So that's what we are achieving. We have a look over here. All right, so if we come back to our design, all right, so what we want to do is we want to put a time in here and a date. Okay, So what we're going to do is we put our time, so we use it 15, and we can put the H in there depending on how you want to lay it out. We go to our fonts, we choose Sizal, sorry, you need to make sure it's selected, all right? And then we take it down and we're going to eyeball size it, just so that we can get an idea. So we know it's about 16, so let's, just so that we can use it and we are equal on both sides, we put 16. Now we want it in the middle of this line design. So what we're going to do again, shift, click the lines, put center, center, so that you've got a looking. Yes? Okay, so now we want to put August on this side. So what I would do to keep, instead of redoing the whole wheel, and because we want to keep this font element and size element the same, we're going to take this 1500 and we're going to go Control Copy, Control Paste, and using the Control button, take it across. All right, then go into our text tool, we highlight it, we type August, but now you can see it's not exactly in the right place. So again, we need to align this so you have your August highlighted already. You're going to shift with your lines, and we don't have to center align, we just have to center align it horizontally. So now we have our design. So now we can highlight all of it, group it, okay? And let's take it back. Now we can take it back to our design. Now, it might be looking a little bit big, so let's shift and bring it down smaller. You can eyeball this. We want it in the center of our design. So again, we're going to go back to our alignment. We're going to shift our square and make sure it's in a line. Then what we're going to do is we're going to click on our design element, press Control as we drag it up into place. All right, and there we've got a relative replica of what we've got there. But you'll see that this side is slightly darker to what this side is. Now the reason why is that we know we're going to be digitally foiling this, and the more black ink there is, the better. So what I normally do on these is I put an outline. So I go down, I go to right click, and I just make it darker so that we can make the design. All right, so the next part is we're going to recreate this square for our belly band, okay? So we're going to make a square of, I think, 5 mils. So you've gone to your rectangular tool, you're going to type in 50 and 50. All right, taking it a little above. We're going to copy this, we want to copy this monogram. So we're going to click on the design, we're going to go Control C, Control V, and we're going to take it back. Now we also want to create this Roderick and Tracy. Now, Roderick and Tracy we haven't got it in that font. So what we're going to do is we're going to type it out. So we're going to go RODRIQUE and Tracy with no E. All right. Then we go and we select there we go, our Cinzel. We're going to put an outline on it, and we're going to take it a little bit small. Play with this, eyeball it, see what works for you. Once you've got a relative size, we need to place it in the middle of our square. So what we're going to do is we're going to first start, we're going to put the Roderick directly in line with the TR. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to do an alignment again. We're going to do Shift, click the R and the T, and we're going to go align, which is great. Now we're going to group those two elements. We're going to click and drag, Control G. Then we're going to click our outside because we want a center align. And now we've got a perfect square when we're doing our design for our belly band. Okay, which is really, really great. Now we're going to go and move on to our information page. So what we're going to do, the same thing, we're going to put it in place so that we can use it as a guideline setting up. All right, we go back to our information, we copy and paste from Notepad, we place our information on the side, doesn't matter what it looks like at the moment. All right, now we're going to remember we need to create that square again, the 140 by 135. We go to our rectangular tool and we create any size box because we're going to edit it. We make it 140 wide and we're going to make it 135 tall. Fantastic. Okay, now there's a number of things that we can do here. Remember, I always reference back to where we were in the beginning. So you want to try and keep your fonts all relatively the same sort of size. So here we had our font as 12 and I would relatively keep to that. So let's go, we'll make this font size 12 and we change it to Cinzel. Yes, and now we also want it as a center alignment. Perfect. Okay, we also want to put it in the middle of this square. So we shift, align, center align, and wham. Always remembering to go back and save. Now we want to highlight our venue, dress code, RSVP, and registry. Now, how do we do this? By making it a curly font. Now, if we go back to our previous page and we click on the size of Roderick, if you remember, it was stylish calligraphy, roughly 30. So let's start there and see what sizing it looks like. So let's take venue. Let's go change it to stylish calligraphy, and we're going to change this to a 30. I think it looks great in relation. So let's go and highlight and do that to all the headings, and let's see where we stand. Take it to 30, take the RSVP, 30. All right, we should have it in, or you can type it in. Okay, and registry being our last one. Stylish and 30, just so that we can get consistency. But now we can see our alignment is slightly out again. So let's realign this and see how we go. Fantastic. All right, you can see I've gone a little bit smaller here, but it's really up to you. If you feel that you want to go a little bit smaller, you can go shift. Now shift keeps it in the same place. And then remember, we put an outline to it because we are using it as for digital foiling. So there we go. We have our two information page. If we go back here, we've got two monograms, and then we've got a main page, and then you're ready for print.
Remember, if you like what you see, remember to subscribe. Likes, we like the likes. And any comments, we promise to answer every single comment on any one of our social media platforms. So click that bell for the notifications. I hope you enjoyed that DIY as much as I enjoyed giving you all the information. I love teaching. It's one of my greatest passions, and I am just so happy I could share this with you. Only more and bigger and better things to come. So, that's me for today. Stay gorgeous.